Hashtag you mean. You can mate anytime. Part 1. First contact confusion. Dr. Eliza Chen checked her uniform in the mirror one last time. Today was important. After 6 months of careful messages back and forth with the Phyrexians, the human team would finally meet them face to face. As the ship's top expert on alien life, Eliza needed to make a good impression. "Ready, Doctor?" Captain Malik asked from the doorway. "As ready as I'll ever be," Eliza said with a nervous smile. The meeting room on the human ship handshake had been set up carefully. The temperature was warmer than humans liked, and the air was more humid. The Phyrexians were amphibious creatures, after all. 5 Phyrexians entered the room. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but had blue-green skin that looked wet and shiny. Their heads were wider than human heads, with large eyes on the sides. They moved with a gentle sway, almost like they were still underwater. "Welcome to the handshake," Captain Malik said, bowing slightly instead of offering to shake hands. The team had learned that Phyrexians didn't like to touch other species. The tallest Phyrexian stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Klopax. We are pleased to finally meet face to face." For the next hour, both sides shared basic information about their planets and people. The humans learned that Phyrexians lived about 200 Earth years and had 3 genders. The Phyrexians were amazed that humans only needed water and food to survive, not the mineral baths their people required. During a short break, Eliza found herself standing next to Ambassador Klopax by the refreshment table. "Your species has advanced quickly," the ambassador said, "especially considering how young your civilization is." "We adapt well," Eliza replied. "Humans are very flexible." Klopax made a burbling sound that the translators didn't catch. "Yes, we noticed this. Your ability to live in so many different environments is impressive. On our world, we must return to the Great Lakes every year for the spawning season, which limits how far we can settle from water." "Spawning season?" Eliza asked. "So you have a specific time for reproduction?" "Of course," Klopax said. "The 3 genders can only create new life during the lunar alignment. It happens once per cycle, what you would call a year. It is the same for all intelligent species we have encountered." Eliza didn't think before she spoke. "Oh, that's interesting. Humans don't have a mating season. We can reproduce any time of the year." The room went completely silent. Every Phyrexian turned to stare at Eliza. One of the junior diplomats made a choking sound and swayed on their feet. "I'm sorry," Eliza said quickly. "Did I say something wrong?" Ambassador Klopax's mouth opened and closed several times before words came out. "You mean you can mate anytime, without a biological cycle forcing it?" "Well, yes," Eliza said, feeling uncomfortable with all eyes on her. "Human females have monthly cycles that affect fertility, but there's no specific season when all humans reproduce." The smallest Phyrexian suddenly collapsed to the floor with a wet slap. "Trelkos!" Another Phyrexian rushed to help them up. Ambassador Klopax made a series of clicking sounds to the other Phyrexians, who all began chittering at once. They huddled together, occasionally turning to look at the humans with their large, blinking eyes. Captain Malik leaned close to Eliza. "What just happened?" "I think," Eliza whispered back, "I just told them something about humans that shocked them deeply." She watched the agitated aliens with growing concern, something that wasn't in any of our briefing materials. The ambassador approached them again, looking at the humans with new eyes. "We must take some time to process this information. It changes much about how we understand your species." As the Phyrexians hurried out, Eliza had a sinking feeling in her stomach. Somehow, she had just changed the course of humanity's first contact with alien life. All because humans could mate anytime they wanted. Hashtag you mean. You can mate anytime. Part 2. Galactic Gossip. 3 days after the awkward first meeting, the human ship handshake arrived at the massive Confederation hub. The space station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth, and shaped like a wheel with spokes going in all directions. Ships of all sizes and strange shapes moved around it like bees around a hive. "Captain, we have docking permission," the pilot said to Captain Malik. Eliza stood on the bridge, watching the alien station grow larger in the view screen. Since the strange incident with the Phyrexians, she had spent hours studying everything they knew about alien biology, trying to understand their reaction. But the information was limited. "Dr. Chen," Captain Malik said, "you'll join me to meet the Confederation representatives. After what happened with the Phyrexians, we need to be careful about what we say." As they walked through the docking tube into the station, Eliza noticed something odd. Aliens of different species stopped to stare at the humans. Some pointed with their various limbs. Others made sounds that the translators couldn't catch. "Is it just me?" Eliza whispered to Captain Malik. "Or are they all looking at us?" "It's not just you," he replied quietly. "Something's going on." They were met by a tall, thin alien with gray skin and 4 arms. "I am Coordinator Jital. Welcome to Confederation Hub. Please follow me to your quarters." As they walked through the wide corridors, the staring continued. Some aliens moved away when the humans passed. Others leaned in closer, as if trying to get a better look. In their private meeting room, Captain Malik turned to Coordinator Jital. "Why is everyone staring at us? Is something wrong?" The alien's face changed color slightly. "News travels quickly in the Confederation. The Phyrexians shared information about your reproductive abilities." Eliza felt her cheeks grow warm. "You mean about humans not having a mating season?" "Precisely," Jital said. "It is unusual. All 27 species in the Confederation have specific biological cycles for reproduction. The concept of a species that can mate at any time is quite shocking to many." Before they could discuss further, Eliza's data pad beeped. It was a message from Confederation leadership requesting a special meeting to discuss the human reproductive anomaly. "Great," Captain Malik sighed. "Our first major diplomatic mission, and we're going to spend it talking about human mating habits." Later, Eliza decided to explore the hub's central garden, a massive space with plants from dozens of worlds. There she noticed a tall, slender creature with colorful, moth-like wings and large, compound eyes watching her. "Hello," Eliza said cautiously. "I'm Dr. Eliza Chen from Earth." "I know who you are," the alien said. Its voice was soft and musical. "I am Catulian, xenoanthropologist. I study different species and their cultures." "Are you studying humans now?" Eliza asked. Catulian's wings fluttered slightly. "Everyone is studying humans now. Your reproductive patterns are fascinating to us." Eliza sighed. "I didn't realize it would cause such a stir." "You must understand," Catulian said, moving closer. "For most species, reproduction is a rare, precious time. Some, like the Sktheri, mate once every 7 cycles. Others, like my kind, have a brief season lasting only days. It shapes our societies, our traditions, even our religions. And humans don't have that limitation," Eliza said, beginning to understand. "Exactly. Some species view this as terrifying. They think humans must be aggressive predators to evolve such a trait. Others see it as miraculous. The religious Borrelians are calling humans the unbound ones and claiming you are divine beings." Eliza laughed nervously. "We're definitely not divine." Catulian's compound eyes glittered. "Perhaps not. But you are certainly different. And in the Confederation, different can be dangerous." The alien looked around carefully before adding, "Some powerful members are already suggesting that Earth might be too unpredictable to join the galactic community." Eliza felt a chill run down her spine. What had started as an awkward cultural misunderstanding was quickly becoming something much more serious. "You mean you can mate anytime." Part 3. Cultural Complications. "This is getting out of hand," Captain Malik said, pacing the conference room. The human diplomatic team had gathered for an emergency meeting after receiving the latest news. Eliza nodded, looking at her datapad. 3 more species have filed formal protests with the Confederation Council. The Scatheri are now calling humans dangerous predators because of our reproductive patterns. Communications Officer Park held up her device, and the Borrelians have declared humans to be divine beings. They're requesting permission to build a temple on Earth. Captain Malik stopped pacing and took a deep breath. We need to fix this. Dr. Chen, your team needs to create some educational materials explaining human reproduction in clear scientific terms. Make it boring and normal. Yes, sir, Eliza replied. We'll emphasize birth control, consent, and how our cultural practices regulate reproduction despite our biological capabilities. For the next 2 days, Eliza and her team worked hard creating simple diagrams and explanations. They sent the materials to Catulian for review before releasing them to the Confederation. How bad is it? Eliza asked when she met Catulian in the hub's garden. The moth-like alien's wings twitched nervously. Several species are pushing to classify Earth as a restricted zone until humans can be properly studied. They fear your reproductive pattern means humans will quickly outnumber other species. That's ridiculous, Eliza said. Earth is already facing population challenges. Most developed nations have declining birth rates. I understand this, Catulian said, but fear is rarely logical. Later that day, Eliza received an urgent message. Her educational materials had been distributed, but something had gone wrong. Translation error, Officer Park explained, rushing into Eliza's quarters. The section on human dating rituals was mistranslated as perpetual mating displays. Now the Moraxians think humans are constantly trying to reproduce with everything. Eliza put her head in her hands. This just keeps getting worse. The next morning, Captain Malik called another meeting. His face looked grim. The Confederation Security Council wants to interview a group of humans to assess our biological impulses, he said. They're concerned our reproductive freedom makes us inherently aggressive and unpredictable. That's not fair, said Medical Officer Jacobs. Just because we can reproduce anytime doesn't mean we're constantly thinking about it. Try explaining that to a species that only mates once every 7 years, Captain Malik replied. To them, our biology seems incredibly intense. It's more than that, said Eliza, who had been studying Confederation species extensively. For most of these aliens, their entire society is organized around their reproductive cycles. It affects everything from their economy to their religion. The idea of a species without those biological restrictions is genuinely frightening to them. The meeting was interrupted when a junior officer burst in. Captain, you need to see this. She turned on the large screen on the wall. A Confederation news broadcast showed protesters outside the human diplomatic offices on 3 different worlds. Some carried signs with crude drawings of humans. Others chanted slogans that the translator rendered as "restrict the unbound" and "protect our future." This is what we're up against, Captain Malik said quietly. Their fear is turning into hate. That evening, Eliza found Catulian waiting outside her quarters. I came to warn you, the alien said, wings trembling. The council vote on Earth's status has been moved up. If the current mood continues, your planet will likely be classified as a restricted zone. Can we stop it? Eliza asked. Perhaps, Catulian replied. But you need allies, strong ones, who would support us. Catulian's compound eyes gleamed in the low light. The Vrexians have requested a private meeting with you tomorrow. I don't know why, but Ambassador Klopak seems very interested in humans. Perhaps they see something in your species that others don't. For the first time in days, Eliza felt a small spark of hope. #you mean. You can mate anytime. Part 4. The Vrexian Connection. The meeting room was small and filled with mist. The Vrexians had requested a space with high humidity, and Eliza found herself wiping water droplets from her face as she waited. The door slid open, and Ambassador Klopak entered alone. Thank you for coming, Dr. Chen, the Vrexian said, settling on a curved seat. What we discuss must remain private for now. Eliza nodded. Of course, Ambassador. Klopax's large eyes blinked slowly. First, I must apologize for our reaction during our initial meeting. We were unprepared for the information about human reproduction. No offense taken, Eliza said. But I'm curious, why did you want to meet me alone? The Vrexian made a soft, bubbling sound that might have been a sigh. Because despite the fear spreading through the Confederation, some of us see something different in humans. Klopax touched a device on their wrist, and a hologram appeared between them. It showed Earth from space. Dr. Chen, the truth is that Vrexian scientists have been studying Earth transmissions for decades before we made official contact. Eliza's eyes widened. You were watching us. Only your public broadcasts, Klopax said quickly. We wanted to understand your species before meeting you. And what we found was fascinating. The hologram changed to show human cities, farms, and different environments from deserts to Arctic regions. Most species in the Confederation live in very specific environments suited to their biology. But humans... Klopax waved a webbed hand at the images. Humans live everywhere. Desert, jungle, mountains, floating cities. You adapt your environment instead of being limited by it. We're resourceful, Eliza said with a small smile. More than that, Klopax replied. Our scientists developed a theory. Your reproductive freedom and your remarkable adaptability are connected. A hologram shifted again, showing a complex diagram that Eliza couldn't fully understand. Unlike species bound by rigid mating cycles, humans evolved flexible approaches to survival. You don't organize your entire society around reproduction. This freed your species to develop diverse social structures and creative problem-solving abilities. Eliza leaned forward, intrigued. And you think this explains why humans advance technologically so quickly? Precisely, Klopax said. Despite being physically unimpressive, no offense, humans achieve space travel much faster than other species. None taken, Eliza said. But if you see this as positive, why is the rest of the Confederation so afraid? Klopax's skin darkened, a sign of seriousness among Vrexians. Because change is frightening. For millions of years, intelligent life in this galaxy evolved along similar paths, with fixed reproductive cycles creating stable, predictable societies. Then humans appear, a species that reproduces freely, adapts constantly, and changes quickly. We're not a threat, Eliza insisted. I believe you, Klopax said. But powerful factions in the Confederation fear that humans' reproductive and adaptive advantages make them potential competitors to the established order. The Vrexian leaned closer. The Vrexians want an alliance with humanity. We see your adaptability as valuable, not threatening, but we must move carefully. What can we do? Eliza asked. The Council will vote soon on Earth's status. If they classify your planet as restricted, it will take decades to change that decision. Klopax's voice dropped lower. We need to show the Confederation that human adaptability is beneficial to all, not something to fear. How do we do that? Klopax's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. My scientists have prepared data showing the evolutionary connections between your reproductive patterns and other human traits, your creativity, your problem-solving abilities, your emotional complexity. With your permission, we would like to present this at the next council session. For the first time since this crisis began, Eliza felt real hope. Ambassador Klopax, I think this could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. The Vrexian blinked in confusion, and Eliza laughed. Sorry, human cultural reference. It means yes, we would be honored to have your support. #you mean. You can mate anytime. Part 5. Evolutionary Insights. The Grand Meeting Hall of the Confederation Council was packed. Representatives from all 27 member species sat in curved rows facing a central platform. Captain Malik and Eliza sat in the human section, watching as Dr. Zolcat, the lead Vrexian scientist, prepared to present. This is it, Captain Malik whispered. If this doesn't change their minds, I don't know what will. Eliza nodded nervously. In the week since her meeting with Ambassador Klopax, the situation had grown even more tense. 3 more species had joined the calls to restrict Earth, claiming humans were evolutionarily dangerous. The hall lights dimmed, and Dr. Zolcat stepped onto the platform. The elderly Vrexian's skin was pale blue with hints of gold around the edges, a sign of advanced age and wisdom among their kind. Respected council members, Zolcat began, I present the results of our 50-year study of human biology and society. A large hologram appeared above the platform, showing DNA strands and brain scans. Most species in our confederation evolved toward biological specialization, Zolcat explained. Our bodies and societies are optimized for specific environments and behaviors. Our reproductive cycles create natural rhythms that shape our cultures. The hologram shifted to show human DNA next to other species. Humans took a different path. Instead of specializing, they generalized. Instead of adapting to environments, they adapt environments to themselves. And most importantly, their reproductive flexibility allowed their societies to develop in ways none of us predicted. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some aliens seemed interested, others uncomfortable. We have discovered direct connections between human reproductive patterns and their unique traits, emotional complexity, cultural diversity, and problem-solving abilities. Dr. Zolcat displayed brain scans of humans alongside other species. Human brains form different connections throughout life. They can learn, adapt, and change far longer than most species. This is directly connected to their reproductive biology. A tall, insect-like alien stood up. This only proves they are dangerous. A species that can breed any time and adapt so quickly could overtake us all. Shouts of agreement followed. Eliza's heart sank. Dr. Zolcat waited for quiet before continuing. That fear is natural. But consider this, in their own history, humans have faced the same fear from within. Different human groups once feared other human groups would outbreed them. This never happened. Instead, as humans gained prosperity, their birth rates stabilized or even declined. This caused surprised chittering among many delegates. The data shows that advanced human societies actually reproduce less, not more, despite their biological ability to reproduce any time. They choose quality of life over quantity of offspring. The presentation continued for another hour, with Dr. Zolcat sharing detailed data about human society, values, and evolutionary traits. By the end, the mood in the hall had shifted from hostility to cautious curiosity. After the session, Eliza found Cthulhian waiting for her in the corridor. Your Vrexian friends made a strong case, the moth-like alien said. Many council members are reconsidering their positions. That's good news, Eliza said with relief. They walked together through the hub's garden section. Colorful plants from dozens of worlds created a peaceful atmosphere. There's something I don't understand, Cthulhian said after a while. If your species can mate anytime, why do you form long-term pair bonds? Most species do this to ensure partners are available during mating seasons. Eliza smiled. Human relationships aren't just about reproduction. They're about companionship, emotional support, shared dreams. Cthulhian's wings fluttered softly. You mean you can love anytime too? Yes, Eliza said. Our emotions aren't tied to biological cycles either. Cthulhian was quiet for a long moment. That might be what scares everyone most. They finally whispered, not that you can create life anytime, but that you can form bonds anytime, love anytime, change anytime. The freedom must be both wonderful and terrifying. Looking at Cthulhian's sad expression, Eliza realized the alien was speaking from personal experience. For the first time, she truly understood how different, and perhaps how lucky, humans really were. #You mean you can mate anytime. Part 6. The Classification Vote. The day of the Confederation Council vote arrived. Tension filled the great circular chamber as representatives from all 27 species took their seats. Today, they would decide Earth's classification status, which would shape humanity's place in the galactic community for decades to come. Captain Malik adjusted his formal uniform nervously. Remember, no matter what happens, we stay calm and professional. Eliza nodded, watching as more delegates entered the chamber. She noticed Catulian take a seat with the other Moth-like Polarians. The alien gave her a small wave with one delicate limb. Ambassador Klopax approached the human delegation. My sources say the vote will be close. The presentation changed many minds, but strong opposition remains. What classifications are they considering? Eliza asked. There are 5 options, Klopax explained. The most restrictive is protected species, which would essentially quarantine Earth. The most favorable is ascendant civilization, which would grant significant privileges and development assistance. The chamber lights dimmed, and the High Counselor, a tall crystalline being named Exorthal, called the session to order. Today we vote on the classification of species 10,927, known as humans from the planet Earth. Exorthal announced. Before the vote, delegations may speak for 2 minutes each. For the next hour, Eliza and Captain Malik listened as representatives shared their views on humanity. Some spoke of fear, others of hope. The Sktheri representative, a large reptilian creature, gave a particularly harsh speech. These humans reproduce constantly without natural limits, the Sktheri hissed. Their adaptability makes them unpredictable and dangerous. They must be restricted until we understand them better. When it was Earth's turn to speak, Captain Malik stepped forward. Respected Council, he began, we understand your concerns. Human biology is different from yours, but difference is not danger. Throughout our history, humans have faced challenges by working together, by finding new solutions. Our adaptability is not a weapon. It's a tool we offer to share with the Confederation. His time ran out, and the Council prepared to vote. But before they could begin, Ambassador Klopax requested a final statement. The Vrexian delegation wishes to add something important, said the ambassador, moving to the center of the chamber. For 3 cycles, we have studied humans secretly. We learned their languages, watched their broadcasts, analyzed their history. We saw a species that fights itself, yes, but also one that constantly strives to be better. Klopax's voice grew stronger. When we finally revealed ourselves, humans welcomed us with open arms. They shared their knowledge freely. They showed curiosity, not fear. The ambassador looked around the chamber. Some of you fear humans because they can mate anytime, but this same biological trait gave them something else. The ability to change, to grow, to question themselves. Should we fear this? Or should we welcome a species that brings new ideas, new approaches to our ancient confederation? A murmur spread through the chamber. Eliza held her breath. If we classify Earth as restricted, Klopax continued, we lose the chance to learn from humans. Their art, their music, their endless creativity, all shaped by the very traits some of you fear, could enrich us all. As Klopax returned to their seat, the High Counselor called for the vote. One by one, representatives pressed buttons on their consoles. A large display showed the results updating in real time. The chamber grew silent as the final votes were tallied. The result appeared on the main screen. Protected species, 7 votes. Limited contact, 6 votes. Observed member, 7 votes. Full member, 5 votes. Ascendant civilization, 2 votes. The council is deadlocked, announced High Counselor Dorval. No classification has received a majority. Captain Malik leaned toward Eliza. Is that good or bad? I don't know, she whispered. What happens now? The High Counselor's crystalline body glowed brighter. In the case of a deadlock, council tradition requires additional evidence before a second vote. Earth delegation, can you provide something more to help us understand your species better? Eliza suddenly had an idea. She whispered quickly to Captain Malik, who nodded. "Honorable Council," Eliza said, standing up. "We request permission to share something with you tomorrow. A demonstration of human culture spanning thousands of years. Perhaps seeing what our reproductive freedom has created will help you understand us better." The council agreed, and Eliza left the chamber with a mix of hope and fear. They had one more chance to change minds. Eliza worked through the night with her team, preparing their cultural presentation for the council. They selected music, art, literature, and scientific achievements from across human history to show the Confederation the breadth of human creativity. "This has to work," Eliza said, reviewing the final selections. "We need to show them that our adaptability leads to beauty, not just danger." The next morning, Captain Malik received an urgent message. "Dr. Chen, we have a problem. Our presentation time has been delayed. There's a situation." When they arrived at the council chamber, they found it in chaos. On the main screen was a series of images showing humans in military uniforms, weapons, and what appeared to be charts predicting rapid human population growth. "What is this?" Eliza asked, turning to Ctulian, who had hurried over to them. "A group calling themselves the Purists has released what they claim is classified human data," the moth-like alien explained. "They say it proves humans are secretly planning to outbreed and eventually displace other species." "That's ridiculous," Captain Malik exclaimed. "This data is false." But the damage was already done. Across the chamber, delegates were arguing loudly. Some were demanding immediate restrictions on Earth. Others called for more investigation. High Counselor Sorthel finally restored order. "In light of these serious allegations, we must delay the human cultural presentation until this information can be verified." Over the next 3 days, the situation grew worse. News spread across Confederation worlds, and protests erupted against human diplomatic missions. Security around the human delegation was increased as threats mounted. In their quarters, the human team held an emergency meeting. "These images and data are fake," Communications Officer Park said. "But they're clever fakes. They use real human history mixed with fabricated predictions." "Who are these purists?" Captain Malik asked. Julian, who had become a trusted friend to the humans, looked nervous. "They claim to be a coalition of concerned species, but rumors suggest they're being secretly funded by the Sktheri Imperium." "The Sktheri?" Eliza said. "They've been the most openly hostile toward us." Julian's wings fluttered anxiously. "The Sktheri have the most hierarchical society in the Confederation. Their entire culture is built around their 7-year mating cycle. If humans joined the Confederation as equals, it would threaten their worldview." Ambassador Klopax joined the meeting, looking grim. "My intelligence agents have traced the false data to Sktheri sources. They fear an alliance between humans and the Confederation." Captain Malik slammed his fist on the table. "How do we fight this? The Council won't even let us present our case now." Before anyone could answer, a loud alarm sounded throughout the station. The lights flickered, then dimmed to emergency levels. "What's happening?" Eliza asked, standing up. The room's communication screen activated automatically. A station controller appeared, looking panicked. "Attention all residents. We have a level 1 emergency. The main life support system has been damaged. Backup systems are functioning at 40% capacity. Please remain calm and follow emergency procedures." "Sabotage," Ambassador Klopax said quietly. "This must be the Purists." Captain Malik immediately took charge. "Ambassador, get your people to safety. My crew will help with emergency response." As they rushed from the room, Eliza felt the air growing thinner. The life support systems were failing faster than expected. In the main hub, chaos reigned. Different species reacted differently to the dropping oxygen levels. Some could survive with less air, while others were already struggling to breathe. "We need to reach the main engineering section," Eliza told Ctulian. "My team has experience with life support systems." As they fought their way through panicked crowds, Eliza saw something remarkable. Human crew members were helping aliens of all species, carrying those who couldn't walk, sharing portable oxygen devices, organizing evacuation routes. When they finally reached engineering, they found several Confederation engineers struggling with the damaged systems. "Let us help," Eliza said, stepping forward with her team. "We've trained for emergencies like this." At first, the alien engineers hesitated, eyeing the humans with suspicion. But as the crisis worsened, they had no choice but to accept help. For the next hour, humans and aliens worked side by side, improvising solutions, adapting technologies meant for different systems. Throughout the station, the emergency was being broadcast on all channels. Everyone could see humans working to save lives. All lives, not just their own. Eliza realized that without meaning to, they were showing the Confederation exactly what humans did best: adapt. 3 days after the life support crisis, the Confederation Council gathered again. The mood was different this time. The emergency had been broadcast throughout the galaxy, and everyone had seen humans working alongside aliens to save the station. Captain Malik and Eliza entered the chamber to find many delegates nodding respectfully to them. Even some who had been hostile before seemed to view them differently now. High Counselor Torthal called the session to order. "Before we continue our vote on Earth's status, we must address recent events. The attack on our life support systems was traced to agents working for the Sktheri government." Angry murmurs filled the chamber. The Sktheri representative tried to object, but security officers escorted them from the room. Furthermore, Torthal continued, "The false data about human expansion plans has been proven to be fabricated. This council formally apologizes to the Earth delegation for these unjust actions." Captain Malik stood and bowed. "We accept your apology and hold no ill will toward the Confederation." "Now," said the High Counselor, "let us return to the question of Earth's classification. But first, I believe many council members wish to speak based on what they witnessed during the crisis." One by one, representatives came forward to share stories of how humans had helped during the emergency. A small green alien described how a human engineer had quickly adapted breathing equipment to save his children. Another told how humans organized evacuation routes for species with different environmental needs. Cthulhians spoke as well. For days, we debated whether human adaptability was a threat. During the crisis, we saw the truth. Humans don't just adapt themselves. They help others adapt. They don't just solve their own problems. They solve everyone's problems. Their flexibility isn't dangerous. It's exactly what the Confederation needs. When the testimonials ended, Ambassador Klopak stepped forward. "Honored Council, when we first learned humans could mate anytime, we saw only the biological implications. Now we understand this is just one part of what makes humans unique. Their reproductive freedom is connected to their mental flexibility, their emotional depth, their ability to change and grow." The ambassador's voice grew stronger. "Humans aren't perfect. Their history has dark chapters, just like all of ours. But they learn from mistakes faster than any species I've encountered. They question themselves. They improve." Eliza felt tears in her eyes as she listened. For the first time, she felt truly seen, not as a biological oddity, but as a representative of humanity's full potential. The High Counselor called for the vote. This time, the results appeared quickly on the main screen. Protected species, 0 votes. Limited contact, 2 votes. Observed member, 5 votes. Full member, 16 votes. Ascendant civilization, 4 votes. "The Council has decided," announced Exorthal. "Earth is classified as a full member of the Confederation, with all rights and responsibilities this entails." The chamber erupted in applause. Captain Malik squeezed Eliza's hand in celebration. Later, at the formal ceremony marking Earth's admission to the Confederation, Ambassador Klopak approached Eliza with a small, glowing crystal. "This is for you," the Vrexian said. "An invitation for Earth to host the next Confederation Biological Research Center. It will be dedicated to studying the benefits of evolutionary diversity. Thank you, Eliza said, touched by the honor. This means everything to us. As the celebration continued around them, Eliza found Catulian standing alone by a viewing window, looking out at the stars. Aren't you going to join the party? Eliza asked. Catulian's wings fluttered softly. I was just thinking about the future. My species has already begun research into whether aspects of human reproductive flexibility might be safely adapted for our own kind. Really? Eliza asked, surprised. Yes, Catulian said, turning to her with shimmering compound eyes. And we're not the only ones. Several species are now studying human biology not with fear, but with hope. The alien looked back at the stars. Perhaps the future of the galaxy will not just be shaped by your species' unique abilities, but by what all of us can learn from each other's differences. Eliza smiled and stood quietly beside her friend, watching the stars. What had begun with an awkward question about human reproduction had led to humanity's acceptance in the galactic community, and perhaps the beginning of a new evolutionary chapter for many species. All because humans, unlike any other known intelligent species, could mate any time they wanted.